It's Christmas Eve. Thought I'd make some videos to talk about a few things. It's going to be the same like any other day. Like I said, for me, it's another existence of life without my own family or Christmas, but I still send them gifts, Christmas cards, and just leave them in peace. Let them have a good time. My circumstances never changed. And I'm 41 in like less than a month, like 3 weeks from now. But I thought, in order to honor my mother, honor Julian, this information, and Marco, because I'm not sure how much they allow Marco to participate in any of it, but if there is something that he helps my mother with or understand, or it does something, either it's going to be better than nothing. If you choose not to use this information, well, then at least it was there, then it was useless. But if it is useless, if it is useful, it'll be benefiting to my immediate family only, and to help protect the identity of my mother, me, and Frankie, because of all the rapes that happened, the harassment, the threats that came from Kenneth Cooper at the radio station and his family, given they're connected to who they're connected to, and the transgender and gay movement against me. But I wanted to say, I don't know if my mother knows this. Obviously, I'm going to send her the pictures of the teachers that did this to me, that were talking about Dad's money, my father's money, and his house, and beginning to act extremely hostile, toward me, persecuting me, claiming almost in a very direct way. I mean, it was like within inches of saying, you're just trying to steal your dad's money and house, and you're just trying to fool him because he has Alzheimer's, and you're just a thief. It was like inches from them to basically telling me that, because in this moment in life, the reason I have to now make so much of these videos is because a lot of it can't be verified, some of it can't, and some of them, it's the best it's better to love than to never have loved at all. So this is how I share my love to my mother. So the teachers, I'm going to be sending the pictures to my mother, whoever the psychologist is, to the address, to do whatever it is. I honestly believe at this point, at a wall picture, much of it doesn't even matter anymore. There's not going to be any justice. But I think it'll add comfort to my mother to know that she has to understand that there's being dilemma set up for me to turn against her. And she doesn't understand what's happening inside my high school because of what these teachers are after. And how what you don't see what's going on is the impact of what they don't want you to see, and trace it back to them. I'm sure, for sure, at least most of them are dead now. Without a doubt, they're fucking dead. I mean, this guy was already 65 years old in his early 60s, and this is over 20 years ago. But I thought, I needed to say this because of the persecution of my father's money and my mother's house, and how he began threatening me about Sarah Cooper, and he started to talk about Michaela. And he started to insinuate and sort of pursue the ideas in front of me that we're going to be sending somebody toward Michaela. And my biological father, since he may have been still alive, they were probably going to go after him. Without a doubt, in common sense they did. I mean, 100%. Because if they know that they think I'm going after my dad's money and just there to steal it, take advantage of it in his house and manipulate the situation, then what they're going to think is, why is Hector's biological father still alive? He's going to show up into the picture. Hector goes over there, no, I don't think so. Gay faggots in unite. And this is how this Mr. Barry, this piece of shit motherfucker, began threatening me. And there was a number of things that he had said, and it is horrific to me, in my opinion, how detailed this old motherfucker was and how persecuting he was, because I could not understand I could not understand why this person, and I'm thinking to myself, and I mentioned this to him very lightly, and they intentionally sat me next to his desk, like 2 chairs right over, so that anything visual that I see what this person is doing, anything that I see what this person is doing is going to be training me. Keep in mind, I'm 15, 16 years old. I'm a teenage boy. Okay? I'm a teenager. I'm a fucking teenager. I'm 15 fucking years old. 16 years old. This person has no empathy whatsoever. He is strictly doing this for the Cooper family. And because Ken Cooper is a police officer, detective, to take over my mother, the house, and manipulate the situation for his kid and the gay faggots and their secrecy. So, I think it's important for me to say this because I know how my mother would have felt. I didn't start I didn't start getting into arguments with my mother until I was until about I'd say about 16 years old, late 15. I mean, maybe not even 15, because when I was around my mother, we had a great relationship. Like, I remember my mother picking me up from boot camp. We go get something to eat. She, wherever we went or things happened, it was very motherly like. My mother very much was like, I was kind of like her, her jewel baby that was going to, because I was bigger than Frankie, naturally taller, and I had a beard. She could tell that I was, and she knew I was a straight kid. She knew that I was the straight boy, and she knew that even though Frankie was very smart, I was very outgoing as a person. So I say this because when I was in that class, I talked about this in the other videos. I'll eventually do the drawings so that I don't know if there's cameras in that class or not, and how he was trying to sell me a black, and he began talking real loud, but kind of just vaguely pointing his eyes at me and then talking to some other subjects. And he was talking very detailed about the $50,000, my dad's real estate house, and he was relating his daughter to Sarah Cooper. I mean, it was all manipulation. It was all to poison me, to eliminate the situation. This motherfucker, this worthless motherfucker is dead now. I don't know where the fuck this piece of shit is. And he claimed to be a Christian. Now, every white supremacist and every old-ass piece of shit motherfucker is going to now say he was a good person, he's a Christian, he did for good. No, he didn't do nothing for a goddamn good. Because he was intimidating and threatening me. There was a guy in class, you can look this up and ask him. There was a black kid in class. His name is William. And his dad had just died. And he'll know this. He played football. Richard Murphy knew who he was. Richard Murphy got along with him really good. Who else? Nick Carrera got along with him pretty well, I think. Cisco, I think, got along with him pretty good. I think Jeremy might have known him. John Basili did. But I did know that his name got brought up in the crew that I was hanging around with, like he was a cool guy, like he was a laid-back guy or whatever. He was a big kid. He was a big kid that was really big for his size, and he played football, and he was really pretty good at football. And in the middle of class, in this class, if I can find his picture, I'll post it, or I'll send it to my mother or whatever. And in the middle of class, he goes, and you gotta understand, in this class, everybody kind of does their own thing. There isn't very much like everyone's paying attention to one teacher, and that everyone's kind of just doing their own thing, and not throwing paper planes necessarily in class, but it's just kind of everybody's doing their own thing, and does sort of their work, and it doesn't seem like so much of a legitimate class like most of the other classes I took. And in the middle of class, he stands up, right, and he goes in front of everybody, and he's looking at me. He goes, "Yeah, if y'all ever want to say something, Will's father just died of a heart attack." And he said this, and you got to understand, he wasn't good friends. He did not have good relationship with anybody in that class to be comfortable enough to do that. Because I would watch, I was a pretty shy person, and when I was in school. Because most of the time I didn't do my work, I just sat there. And Will gets upset, and he looks at him and he goes, like, what the fuck did you just say that for in front of everybody? And his people knew that his dad passed away, but the way that he expressed it was like throwing his dead body, and now I'm going to get the exchange of Hector to see if he cares about Raymond Palomo, and then I'll send my platoon to go after him because he's dead now. So this is what he's doing in the middle of class, and he's acting hostile, like somebody that wants to like steal something. He's taking ownership, and he's just, Hector's a bad person. I need to protect. I'm Raymond Palomo's keeper, and I'm for Sarah Cooper, and he tells in the middle of class, he goes, yeah, I got a sister in class and she visits me every once in a while. And you got to keep in mind, in this time, there's no reason for me to believe any of these teachers or anything knows about my dad's money, because Frankie knows about it, my mom knows about it, I know about it. There's nobody in class, especially I don't want to tell Richard and Murphy, John Basili didn't know about this. And I can't be telling people my dad has $50,000 fucking dollars when I'm 15, 16 years old, because he's already going to probably have 5 years left before he dies, or 10, not too many years, and he's already in a nursing home. Because they're going to want to steal, and people, when they know you have $50,000 just waiting for somebody to die, they're going to come after you. It does not fucking matter. You got a lot of people, it's not going to be good when you talk about money like that. Even though I was supposed to be honored out of my dad's wishes, and he had said this, you can ask Frankie, you can ask my mother. Well, my mother, depending on what circumstances it is, but you can ask Julian. He was always saying this in front of them as well. Julian even said this at the funeral home when we were signing paperwork to bury my father. He goes, yeah, Dad wanted us to keep all that money, and he was trying to give that to us. And we're at the funeral home. So you can ask Frankie and Julian. I don't think he's not in any good. I know he's in a nursing home. Something bad happened to him. There's no way in any mental situation, because they're taking advantage of the trauma that went after him, so that Ken and Sarah Cooper and their white platoon and their army gets. But keep in mind, in this overall picture, it's about scavenging for the trash and making themselves look like heroes. This is my immediate family. If I can't talk to my mother, biological mother, for the last 20 years, then this guy downstairs has been threatening me about my dad's money and his real estate, and beating me with electronic devices and taunting me and doing all this other shit shouldn't have the right to. But apparently someone's giving the authority, and this is the horrors that I talk about. It's all about suicide, murder-suicide. I'm going to do all these horrible things because I don't have too much time left, but it's nothing positive, loving, good. No, you have no right. I am in every healthy state of mind to identify, and was at that time, to say, look, he is my father. I didn't know he was my biological father. Barry in this class was a piece of shit that was basically stolen me away from him. So anyway, I think it's important for me to talk about, because my mother doesn't know about this, and I don't want to go into too many more details about this, because I've already talked about it on my other video, what I need to talk about, and with that particular situation. And I kind of drifted off. There was some at the very beginning of this video I was going to talk about something else, but I needed to talk about that before I forgot. There's the $50,000 that my dad had in IMG, which is I'm not sure exactly what it was. It was like in stocks, or it was something, but it generated some sort of money. I don't know I still don't know exactly how stocks work, because IMG, obviously they're not giving me, I've tried to do my own investigation, and they cut me off of everything. They won't let me they call IMG, all these banks, and they're telling me false information and all these things, because they're just wanting to steal it. It's the homosexuals and transgenders and the white supremacists that went after my mother, because to control the money. So that not only they're the ones that are saying it's going to her, but they can cut it off from me, because my mother is as smart as a bag of rocks, and they're beating the shit out of her. She's having her son raped the shit out of, and including it happening to me. This is why I had to show the identification of the drawing pictures, because everyone everyone is going to want to feel sorry for Sarah Cooper. Everyone's going to want to feel sorry for the white power of Madison, the white power, especially for Kenneth, because it trails back to all the dead bodies and horrors. It doesn't matter; they're uncomfortable situations. I'm the one that wasn't, and the president is the one that ordered that. The psychologists, the teams, they don't care. When you have a lot of people against you, you're always going to lose. You're always going to lose when you have the world against you. And it's literally like that. Especially when law enforcement targeted me, that's why. They're going to keep making excuses to what had happened, because they're going to keep staying in their place. They're going to keep standing their ground to make sure they kill and take and steal and then justify. This is no moral table at all of what these people are doing, what they did to my mother. They worked as a team, they mutilated the situation, and now they're just trying to scavenge at the dead remains of my sister and my dad and this money because Sarah Cooper now, by this age, that fucking worthless bitch is probably like, 80 years old by now. And it's difficult for me to understand. Yeah, I know you say go because she's a worthless bitch. I'm dying in a fucking hospital, and this piece of shit and Kenneth is going along with this. And the president is going to keep, when you speak about the president of the United States, President Barack Obama that's involved in George Bush, to them killing people is a joy. They have such a joy and comfort to exterminate a human life, and it doesn't bother them. They still think they have functional cries. They think they have functional normal beings. They are not functional at all. Those are monsters. Those are horrible people, and they don't give a fuck. As a human being that has a brain and has a heart and has organs and shits like everyone else, they don't care. They will kill, and it doesn't affect them, and they'll justify it. They were not going to honor my mother and me because of what had happened. They don't, their investigation team, they don't even, the investigation team itself will sabotage the situation and throw it right back at that motherfucker. And it's just going back, and it doesn't change that was my father. That was, his money, his house, my efforts, what he wished. It didn't even matter. They just stole everything, and that goes to show you it doesn't even, what these people are capable of. So, the $50,000 and the house that was involved in this, I say this because my mother, my mother had this dementia and had this stroke or something happened. But one of the last things that I remember was when I was inside her room and she had her leg crushed and she was doped up. And let me tell you, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I've said this before. I'm pretty sure I may have said this before. One of the hardcore main reasons I know that my mother had some sort of brain dysfunction, besides her trying to survive and do these things, was because when my mother got ran over by a forklift and she sort of started to make a recovery, my mother, like that, disappeared. She really didn't say a farewell and a goodbye. She just went to Lucio's house and then gave me a call and said that basically she was going to go back and live with Lucio. I don't know what the situation was. I don't know what was going on. Obviously, Child Protective Services got involved and some other people got involved. But I do know that there really wasn't a farewell, okay, Hector, well, you're 18 and, I'm 6 months back at the house, because she didn't want to be with this guy anymore. She didn't want to be with Lucio. She said this in front of me and Julian. You can ask Julian this. And Frankie, I think, knew about it because we talked about it with Frankie and my mom after my dad died. And my mother said she didn't want to be with that guy anymore. She didn't care for this guy. And she made this on her own. She's in, I'm 19 years old. I don't know what that circumstance was. Whoever it was, but she didn't like that guy. She didn't want to be with him. But then he shows up all of a sudden. A guy that's with a fucking guitar trying to sing his heart out to her. And it was really fucked up. It's hard for me because I know that I really
listened to what my mother was trying to tell me when I was a kid. And I think it's important because the relationship that I had with my mother, not her fucking twin, is precious to me. And it's very painful. It is. It is very painful. It is very, very painful to know that my mother's mental state not only had to be that way, but the gay community, the white supremacists, they just scavenged and stole on these faggots because of them, and because they wanted to make sure that I was declared the enemy. The rapes my mother, the dead body, my dead sister, Frankie being raped, me saving Frankie, my mother, they did this on purpose, because when the time is gone, I don't give a fuck. I've got a better life than you, fuck you. And it's murder-suicide, just like that. That's what they're doing. This is not compassion, this is not, oh, Jesus Christ, no. That is just a fucking toilet. That is just a fucking trash can. And for them to throw this shit in there, to then move forward and keep going, fuck you. That's all it is. Everyone, very few people will genuinely have an authenticity. And I think there definitely are out there. But it's not going to happen in this case. I think it's important. I think it's important because my mother would have liked for me to say these things. And and I don't know whatever happened, because my mother never made like a farewell goodbye. She just kind of like got up and left. And like, I think Lucio left before she did. He left like 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden my mother just then left. And there wasn't like a comfort goodbye. It wasn't a retaliation necessarily that I can recall, but there wasn't a really goodbye. It was just kind of like, I was gone and she was gone. So I don't know who took force, because I'm 100% about this. My mother's identical twin showed up on my dad's last birthday, and then showed up again the last 2 dinners of my dad. One was with Lupe. We went to a Mexican restaurant right next door to the nursing home, and I hated Lupe at this. I knew they were so hungry over my dad's money to make sure that they could steal it along with my mother, that it was full-blown war of me against my mother's, because they wanted to claim that I wasn't her kid, and that they're the ones that were her kid and taking care of her, and I was her family, and I wasn't. And they were going to take advantage of my dad. So this happened. There wasn't I remember I talked about that my mother's twin was not a very polite person, and my dad kind of ignored her very much. He was very ignoring. He just didn't want to pay attention. He kept on paying attention to me. So when my dad would he was very old at this time. He just didn't want to pay attention because he still hated my mother, and he just didn't care. At this time, it's just resources. At this point, when my dad is about to die, he's really old and skinny. He's really, really old. At this point, I know I can't have really much of a conversation with him anymore, like whenever I was younger, but I'm still there. And like in my teenage years, mid to early teenage years. And then the second one was a Taco Bell. And I remember at Taco Bell, and I'm still a little confused about this. I don't know what the actions of this person was, my mother's twin. But I do know that my mother's twin was very retaliating with this particular circumstance. And I could tell that the way it was looking at her, like it was me versus her to get the house and money. And it wasn't, you gotta understand, Julian is like fucking 14 and 15 years old, and me and Julian we talked about it. Me and Julian talked about it our entire childhood. Hey, Dad wants us to give, you're this money and me, and he wants to give us kids as 3. And we talked about this all the time in our house. Said it so many times. So that was always an understanding that that's what my dad wanted. So I noticed that the way that she stood, like the reason I think it's important, because there's this old fucking lady who's 104 years old or 105, They just put an orange chair at the fucking corner, and I know it's psychology that they're doing, but about 4 weeks ago, there was somebody coming out of the room about the same shape, size of my mother, and so what they do is they get these actors, and so this lady's trying to represent Sarah Cooper, and then this one is trying to represent my mother. It's a twin. So she stands by the door and waits for me as I'm coming out the door and goes, "Yeah, you're going to get it this time." And she's like standing like she's the one that's protecting Sarah Cooper. So they're trying to eliminate the situation because that's not who the fuck you are, okay? But I can't say nothing because these people are persecuting me against the money. They want to steal my mother's money and my father and everything they had. That twin was never in the picture. Never in the picture to have any right to authority. So, in this particular situation that I think is important for me to talk about is we show up to Taco Bell and there's this lady across. This is why Sarah Cooper shows up in a very large, wide-looking hat and with black glasses, like this is a detective undercover sting. But I don't know if that's her. And not me, Julian. Julian didn't know that was her. I think it was her. It could have not been her. I think it was. Maybe it wasn't. Shows up with another guy that looks like Ken Cooper. Just two of them. And the whole restaurant is empty. It's like the whole place has been emptied out. We're on a hill. And this person is showing up. And this person is cutthroat. Like the behavior, they're not there normally. I could tell that they're completely out of place. And what happens is I'm sitting like this. My mom's here, like at the far end, and I could tell that the cash register lady, like when we bought the food at Taco Bell, when I looked at them, like somebody had ordered that this was a private dinner. Certain people are going to come in, clear out everyone, don't let people come here. And it's a Taco Bell on top of the hill. And on a very high hill. And we go, we're sitting down, but when my mom, before she gets the food, it's not necessarily the best of comfort. I'm just going there to visit my father. And I think that this is probably going to be the last time I ever see him, and it was. So, but when I could tell the food people at Taco Bell, I could tell that they knew something was going on, or someone had told them. It wasn't just, it seemed like that. It seemed like because there was nobody that showed up. And within 5 minutes of us arriving, Sarah Cooper looks like this person sits down. And my dad doesn't even recognize, he's just like this. Like he's just sort of kind of out of it, and he kind of looks, and I could tell it was very close. He wasn't going to have too much more time left, and maybe a year or two at best. I was thinking within a year, and I knew that this was going to probably be the last time I ever saw him. So, and it was. My mother, when I'm looking at her, my mother gets her food and does this. And is looking directly at these people, at Sarah Cooper, but it isn't necessarily a friendly look. I think my mother's twin was back the fuck off, bitch. Because that's the look and expression, and I know because she may have been sort of tense toward me a little bit, but she was doing it toward this person that just showed up, and there's no reason to. Now, this is her twin. I don't know what personalities go with this, but that's what I have to say about it. But I saw her eat her food, and I could see how she sort of behaved. That it was like, yeah, you too. And it was like I gotta watch out for this bitch too. So I didn't say anything, and we just eating our food. And I don't know what my mother said. I think if there's cameras, I hope there's cameras, you can see what went on in that Taco Bell restaurant. And my mother goes, "Puta, cómete comida." And my mother's twin, she says, "Hurry up and eat your food." And she points, but she doesn't necessarily looking at me. She's looking over at Sarah. With this person, this Sarah and Ken. And she's looking at him, oh yeah, just eat your fucking food. And this isn't a polite situation. But I don't approach these people. They get up and leave 5 minutes before we do. And this lady's covering her face a lot. Like she's trying to hide her face. Like it was almost dumbfound ridiculous, and I just didn't really think of it. I tried, and I don't know if I think they dropped money or they dropped coins on the ground or some shit like that. And this is how they tickle the idea that, oh, Hector's after the money, bitch, you're gonna steal the money. Like this is how the tension is. So I think my mother's twin knew that was Sarah, because there's no reason how she would have looked at this lady like, you know, yeah, you too, you better back the fuck off. You're here to steal the fucking, do whatever you want. And I think it's important for me to talk about. And so right now I just felt them shooting an electronic device, again, into my chest, telling me how I'm supposed to feel emotional or whatever. But this is the last time I ever saw my father. And by this time, I'm 20 years old. It's about a year before, I'm about 19, I think it was 19 when I was, the last year that I saw my father. And because I didn't see him for like a year, a little over a year, I didn't get to see him because I got kicked out of the house. I was having to fend for myself. And at this time, just a lot of bad shit, and I had nobody to take me. My life now is just about survival. I just know that I'm going to have a job, probably get kicked out of the house, get a lawyer. I just know I'm going to be living on the streets. I have to start begging for friends, and I have to start begging for a job. Things are not going to be good. I have to go find a job and see what my life is going to be like. But I have no idea about filling out applications and all this other paperwork. Remember, if you got my high school records, if you got my high school grades, every single class for nearly 3 years that I was there, I made 50s. 50s are the worst grade that you can get in high school, at least during the time I was in high school. Because when you do enough work and you just don't do your homework, you don't do your classwork, you get a 0 or whatever, you get a 50. You get a 50 for the lowest. And that's the lowest that you can get for a classroom. There were maybe 3 semesters, there was maybe 1 or 2 semesters where I passed, in the entire high school experience I went through, I only passed like 3 classes, maybe 4. I think I passed a history class. I got barely before once. I know I passed my health class a few times, which was the coach that was threatening me out, because they transferred the health class from an indoor to outdoor RV deal they had. But I passed that class a couple of times, and I think it was physical education, and that doesn't really count because you don't study, but you just have to show up. But every other class I ever got was 50s. I never once passed, maybe once my language arts. But I'm telling you, in my entire high school experience, were all 50s. If you pull up every grade, they were all 50s. That's the lowest grade you can get, even when you get 0s and you just sit there. And that's what I ended up doing because the stress of all the stuff that was going on. So what happens is, you know, like I said, a year and a half, let's say about 13, 14 months, I don't get to see my father, he dies. So I don't know whatever happened to my mother. That was the last time I ever heard from my mother. The last time I was 18 years old. I was about 18 years old, and that was the last time that I saw my mother. That was, her twin was posing as her the entire time. For the last 23 years now, I think. Yeah, the last 23 years. It's just about close to 22 to 23 years. I have not seen my mother but once that I know of. The entire time that I've been talking to her on the phone, the entire time that I have been going and visiting her at her Lucio's house or whatever it may have been, it was my mother's twin. And I had no idea. When I asked to borrow money from my mother, and I thought it was my mother at the movie theater, it was my mother's twin. And I talked about this before, when I was 27 years old, before I got raped, and I was working for the federal government building at EPA, and she was in Lucio's truck. And apparently she got back with him, because I remember before she left, she said she was going to go back to Lucio and buy a house and make a life. And I never talked to him again because I let her go make her life, whatever. She has kids. I understand she has kids. Go make your life. Go, live the life that's kind of happening to you right now. And since he has so much control and it's his house, there's nothing I can do. So I don't even want to step foot on that property. He knows I'm not allowed to go to that house. He knows I didn't want to call that house. He knows I don't want to. That's what the whole situation was. So I hadn't seen my mother. So this $50,000, when my dad dies, it's her identical twin talking over the phone that's giving me the money for the paycheck, telling me she's sending me the paycheck, and there's no paperwork I signed. For the last over 20 years, the money disappeared, and the house real estate disappeared. So I don't know. My mother and my father died, but if I'm not his biological father, then my mother, I'm the entity that represents my mother, the representative, the closest. Frankie is as well as equal to me, so is Julie. Now, I don't know who got involved, but these twins, Julian's twin, and then obviously Marco became a twin as well. I don't know what happened, but my mother's mental state is zero ability to manage that, even mentally, to deal with that money, to deal with the sophistication, to deal with whose person, zero ability. Zero. She knows she's in the worst of situations, and she just has to kind of just say, no, that's my money. That's my money. I'm trying to live. Her boyfriend, was very threatening toward me at times, and I talked about this. Well, anyway, the lawyers, the gay community strictly went after my mother because they know that they can control my dad's financial assets and take it away from the straight guy, Hector Palomo, and cover up Frankie's rapes. They completely took everything. I don't, as much as violating as it is, and I can't, it's hard to explain, her twin should have not done that, but I believe that her twin was being forced to do it. I think that's what I know. That's what I believe I know, and what I think, that's what I believe I know. She's being held up to it because she's not smart enough. I know that if my mother happened to her, even if her twin was in better health, isn't going to change the fact you don't have one genius of a twin and then the other one's just dumb fucked. It's not going to really work this particular circumstance. It's not going to happen. And I know that she didn't really have very much education. I don't know what her education was either. It could have been worse. But she was much more functional. She was much more functional than, because when I thought it was my mother, I noticed that she was really active. Like, she was really like she healed from her leg being crushed better than whenever I remember her at the house. Right a year before it happened, it was fucked up. So you understand how separated I was from my mother. I'm 16 years old when my mother leaves. She starts, I'm 15 years old when she starts, late 15, right after 8th grade, or like a couple months before even 8th grade ends. My mother starts going to Garland once on the weekends, staying there. And I guess she's like, whatever, having sex and with her boyfriend, living her life with her boyfriend. She does it when I'm 16 years old. She does this like once a month. Then it becomes twice a month. Then it starts to be like every weekend almost. And then when I turn 16, she's still doing it. A couple months after like 16, I would say, she ends up, sometime after when I was 16 years old, she disappears. She says she's just going to leave me the house, and there are times when I'm 16 years old that she'll leave for a weekend and she'll call me on the phone and says, I'm not going to come back, Hector. I'm going to stay here for another week. And she does this. She disappears. So when I turned 17, she's gone full time. She literally gives me the keys and she says, are you going to be okay, Hector? Are you going to be fine? And she's like, I could tell that to me, I sense that, okay, well, she wants to be with that guy, boyfriend. Okay, well, it's my mom, it's her love story. She gets to choose. You know, if she doesn't want to, but she's making that choice, and I'm like, you're going to leave me here by myself. You know this guy doesn't like me, and I can't go. She told me, you can't go over there. He doesn't like you. So what happens is from late 16 years old all the way till I'm 18 years old, my mom's not in the picture. She shows up once a month, and she drops me off like $40 for food, and buy some groceries. And every time I run out of groceries, every 2 weeks or come close to, I tell my mother, hey Mom, can you bring me some money? Can you bring me some food, because I don't have any food to eat? It's basically bringing food to the doggy house, and then she would leave. When I was a kid, my mother hated the guys in life. She used to always say this in Spanish. No, Héctor, mira, Raimundo, él es tu papá. No, tú sabes como otros cabrones a veces trabajan. ¿Qué pasan? Es que llegan muchas mamás para acá, muchas mamás en este mundo. No, yo soy bueno, mamá. Y she said, no, I love you, Hector. She was like, she says, no, Héctor, llegan mamás y ¿sabe qué nacen? Puro McDonald's y puro gratis comida. Y mira, ¿sabes qué hacen? Llega la mamá y más tira la pan y se van. And she used to always disclaim other women and how there's a lot of mothers and a lot of fathers, they just throw their money paycheck on the table for their kids and they take off. You never hear from them. And that's not good. And so my mother participated in discussing that, to say that she was more of an enriched mother than apparently she felt that she thought of me. So when this happens, I have a very close relationship with my mother. I'm 16 years old. My mother doesn't tell the probation officer she's gone like on the weekends, every weekend. But my mother is, there's a very good relationship. Like my mother, I miss that understanding. It's only between me and my mother that, just like Frankie would probably have something between my mother, and Jillian has a special bond, whatever that sort of chemistry is as a child, parent, and as a mother. But that's how she is. And I remember that. And that completely really got taken away and dismantled because I was always protecting her. I was always, you don't understand. Anytime I just knew my mom's mind was fragile and they didn't understand what was going on, and they would take advantage because she's having her child raped over there the entire time. The police department knows about it. Okay? This is how bad it is. Frankie got raped by 10 homosexual men, and it's unbelievable for me to think that how much suffering he went through as a child. And Kenneth is working at the radio station getting a record deal, waiting for 50 Cent and Headcrack to get together with him and make this a big party and get together. And I'll talk about 50 Cent, the rapper, because he's involved with the radio station, Kenneth is, and everything that happened. And it's very difficult because obviously I'm 41 years old now. I don't believe, I'm almost 100% on this. Not 100%, but pretty close to almost 100% as I'm feeling that, or know of. I'll never have a normal relationship with my mother ever again, because you're always going to have Kenneth, you're always going to have other people that got involved, and there's no retaliation that I'm able to do against these people for what they did with this money, and they made it out that I was just a thief. I was just a fucking thief. I was just looking to steal. I was just taken advantage of to her, and that wasn't the truth. My mother doesn't even know, so when she has to throw this little girl's dead body away in a trash can, which is her daughter, and watch her get beat up and Frankie get raped, she has to dispose of me. Because remember, psychology and the team that's the gay faggots and the transgenders that are participating in this, that's why. So it's easy for her to now do this because then they say, well, we got the money. We got the money. Here's the money. So I'm not giving her anything anymore. But you need money to live in this world because that's what money bought. So my mother, obviously my mother would want justice. Because she would not risk her own life going to a barbershop when she's having Frankie get raped. Because you don't know this guy's going to rape you, beat the fuck out your ass, and if he already raped her kid, he could fucking fuck you up. This is a man that will fuck you up. You know, if you fuck shit out your kid, and you have the nerve to come back to a barbershop with my uncle, this guy could kill you and rape your other kid and then rape, you know. So she has a desire to defend Frankie. That is a very risky thing to do. And my uncle was there. My uncle Beto was there when it happened, and he defended the situation. And it was kind of like, I don't know if he made a threat if he had a gun, or he said he had a gun, but he grabbed something like on the hair cutter thing, like he was getting a gun, and he goes, "Oh, really? Like, you want me to get a gun and kill you?" And I remember my uncle kind of looking, and I understand this sort of mob. My uncle's Beto is very strong. He's solid. He's solid as fuck. Much more than I am. But I think it's important for me to discuss because this is how Kenneth then participates in the retaliation in using the police officers and the gay community. The gay community and the faggots and the transgenders have targeted me so tensely, they know that they have to figure out a trash can for me to throw all this angry at. Retaliation for justice. Because Ken Cooper's already fucking dead in most cases. They know that all this energy and all this pissed off and all this other shit and this murder-suicide that he did is gone. But that's not the truth. Even though they did it, and whatever it was, Kenneth and Sarah and Lynette. But you gotta understand that Kenneth and Sarah, the prime ones, Kenneth is the entire one. He's talking shit about my dad, manipulating me. He's like a rodent that's fucking taking shit, whatever he wants. Picking away. There's nothing of my family that I pick away of theirs. Nothing. Zero. There's no profit that I get from these people. The only is the information that they knew about my father before he met my mother, when I was a little kid, that things I don't know I can collect to find out, to put the story together for my mother, to find out what happened to the money, what the fuck's going on. He didn't say about the twins, and I discovered something that Kenneth didn't do and didn't tell me that makes it even 10 times worse. And I was thinking about this, and I'll have to make another video when I remember this, and I can verify this, because there's probably cameras of this and recording devices. And it's horrendous. And the idea that that type of level of participation is, you know, if I knew Julian raped 6 or 7 kids, I would not feel empathy for him and saying, please let him go, feel sorry for him, don't throw him in prison. I'm just going to go off and attack somebody else, and the person that's trying to defend him and his family, and just take it out on Hector. And that's what they did. He did. That's exactly what he knew about the rape. He started to scavenge the dead remains of my dead sister, and he started to take ownership, saying that that was his dead body, and he was the archangel. And he continued to do that. But you gotta understand, I don't know about this dead little girl. He thinks I know. He starts to think that I know about Mickey, his dad, Miguel, raping Frankie and punching him. He thinks he knows that. You know, my mother, I don't think my mother would want to know, in my opinion, how heroic or in an effort Frankie tried to defend himself from being raped. And it's a very crying story when I saw this, that Frankie was fighting for his life. He was, don't touch me, no, and he was wearing this like Christmas sweater. or he was wearing like a sweater. He wasn't wearing a t-shirt. He was wearing some kind of a sweater, like a Christmas kind of looking sweater. And he said, "Don't touch me! No! 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 Don't touch me!" I was stinging, and I don't know what. And they get a little motherfucker, like bruises. When my mother pulled his shirt over and then looked into his pants, but pulled his shirt over, and there was a bruise on his side here and on his back that were they were black. He had to have probably, by this time, I don't know how many of the times this guy punched Frankie before he raped him, but he had to have fractured ribs. A little boy like that with a 250-pound Ken Cooper, hero, punching Frankie. It's hard for me to think that he didn't have fractured ribs, because I had fractured ribs, and I got kicked in the ribs when I was at the cemetery, and I got jumped by 3 black guys and got beat up really bad. When I got kicked in the ribs a couple of times, and after I went to the house and I was recovering, I had to have had fractured ribs, because it took over a month for me to be able to because I couldn't really breathe, I couldn't expand my ribs because it hurt really bad, and I think that's an indication of fractured ribs. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, you can find out that is, but it was bruised pretty bad, but I remember touching it, was fucked up. I think that's what I think fractured ribs are. I don't know if it's necessarily was cracked. I don't think it was. I don't know if you can have a cracked rib and then go to a doctor and it heals on its own, but I think you can, because the calcium builds over the bones and it'll just heal that way. And it'll have a little bit more swelling, but it actually made the actual density of that much more harder, of that area where it fractured, where it maybe just cracked a little bit. But in my opinion, I think that Frankie could have had fractured ribs. I mean, I'm not joking when I say this. Frankie is like the same exact tone, or maybe a darker tone than me, just a tiny tad bit. When he picked up his shirt, it was fucking visible, and I was standing here, and I was about from here to where this kitchen is. I was standing where the I would say about 10, 15 feet. I'd say about 10 feet. I was about 10 feet away from him. I wasn't standing right in front of him, but he was from here to I was right here and to the center of this floor. And I was just standing there, and I go, yeah, I don't know if I saw it, and I was trying to say punch hurt him, and I'm about 4 years old, 4 to 5 years old. And I don't understand what's going on, but I talked about this, and she goes and looks, and I swear it was this big. It was fucking, it covered, and I want to say there was something or scratches on his back or some bruises. Now I don't know, there could have been other bruises in the front part of his body, but Ken Cooper knew how to punch Frankie. Oh, I mean Miguel, because he's a police officer, detective, white power for the American flag. He just sent his detectives and cleaned up, just like Sarah did at the funeral. Oh, I just sent him, and then I straightened him out, huh? So I think it's important for me to talk about, because I don't believe, and still to this day, I don't think my mother, I don't know how sad stories are supposed to be said about this, because I'm not sure if the people, I don't know if they would want me to. I don't think that my mother could tolerate, that's the better word, I don't think my mother could tolerate me telling her that, Frankie fought for his life, and he was fighting to say, don't rape me, and he was moving, don't touch me, don't fight, no, and when that guy, motherfucker, I'm going to show you how Ken Cooper works for the white boys, for the cowboys, for his son, Kenneth, at the radio station. When he collapsed on that ground, man, I would have fucking been crying like that. He was on, and I talked about this before. Like, if I were to tell my mother, I know it's the day before Christmas. In Mexican holidays, we open Christmas at night. We don't do it like the whites. We open Christmas presents in the middle of the night at 12 o'clock tonight. So I wanted to say that because that's how we do it. You know, we're Mexican. So I think it's important because if I told my mother that at least Frankie fought for himself and he was saying, no, don't touch me. And he was fighting. I was standing in the garage 20 feet and I didn't understand. And the way that his body language is, I'm 5 years old. I'm 4 years old. I don't understand. Like, it's just like, boom! And he does like that, boom, motherfucker, like, show you who the boss is. And when Frankie collapsed, he's like he is like can't, like, it's like he, if you've ever been, I've been hit in the stomach before when I wasn't ready, and I collapsed to the fucking ground, and I was seeing fucking green and purple and red, and I thought I was dying. This happened to me before. When I was in 7th grade. Ty Cow actually did this to me. Just playing around. We were playing letter B, but and it's happened to me, I'm sure, in some other case. I've been hit. I mean, the way that he collapsed on that ground, and he stayed there for like 20 minutes. He was just like a fucking puppy, fucking, being skinned. Like he was, but he fought. He was, don't touch me, no, and he was trying, no, and he was looking at, don't touch me, no, and that was it. We go to the house, and this is what I think. I believe that, because when I saw this is what I told my mother. By the time I saw this bruise, it takes something like, I don't know how long does it take a bruise to surface once you get hit. 2-3 days, the platelets, the blood, the cells start indicating where there's a wound. If you get punched viciously like that, it doesn't show up within 10 minutes like that. So I think that this had happened. I believe that this had happened when I wasn't there. Like, one day Frankie went over there and didn't tell me, and I had to stay at the house or something, or whatever happened for 30 minutes. And Frankie stayed over there for an hour, gets a punch raped. I don't know, he shows up to the house. This time, the next day or the 2 days later, we go back to that house or whatever it was. And then this is when I say something. By this time, it gives enough time for the bruise to show up. So I wanted to say how hard he hit, Frankie with the Kenneth at the radio station for the manipulation of the black community. If it's anybody that did anything with that, he really did that targeted, y'all, because he knows how the movement is going to go, because the racist thing, and he just hip-hop, he's Angel. But I think it's important to understand, because if I told my mother this story, and I said, look, Frankie fought for his life, and he did everything he could, and I wanted to let you know that he made an effort. He tried. He did try. Even though my mother would have felt guilt, she was nervous. I remember she said, hey, don't give Frankie, get these. And I'm starting to have these other ideas, flashes, that I remember. I think maybe the other bruises should shown up, because I'm hearing my mother say, while she's looking in the mirror, she goes, hey, Frankie, ¿qué te pasó? Because I remember she said, what happened? ¿Caíste algo? And in Spanish, that means, did you fall down somewhere? ¿Qué te pasó? What happened to you? And I talked about that. Frankie took off. When my mom did that, and Frankie was looking, Frankie looked over at me and goes, no, don't. He goes, don't tell Mom. Now, by this time, I think it's important because, you're talking, this is 35 years ago. But I need to say this because nobody listened. The gay community, the transgenders, are the one that manipulated this over my mother to take my dad's house and money. This is what it's costing. This is what it's costing because you want to make Kenneth at the radio station hip hop and feel sorry for the faggot transgender, and how are you going to set this up against me? This is my dad's money. This is my dad's wishes. This is my mother's wishes. This is what's going on. Now, in an overall picture, it's lost. They won. This lady over here is 140 years old. This old lady is bound for Sarah Cooper. This bitch that showed up in her room, they're gonna keep doing that. But you gotta. This is what it costs them. You think it costs you a Marine to go get shot in the head and burned alive to protect your country and all this other bullshit? Yeah, whatever. I don't give a fuck either. That's why. And I think it's important because my mother couldn't tolerate me telling you, because she knows she couldn't go to the police. You have Ken Cooper showing up. It's not a conversation. He takes control of the family, Palomo family, Melendez. So I think it's important. You know, in my opinion, like I said, I'm going to build my Uncle Beto a couple of boats. I'm already almost finished with the boat I'm working on because, you know, he stood up to this guy, and this guy, he stood up to this guy, and it was very much like, I got a gun, you got a gun, fucking cartels and Mexican shit right here. You want to fuck with this? You want chainsaws to cut your head off? Fucking crazy shit. And it's different. I understand crazy is crazy, but when I saw them, it was very much like, I'll kill you. Like, it was, and my uncle didn't back off. He was just like, it's like, oh. And so we're gonna see. My uncle and my mom both walk out, and it was just kind of like, so, but you gotta understand, when my mom comes into the barber shop, I don't remember if we went there twice or once, but we showed up, and my mom sat down in front of it and says, oh, what happened? And she's trying to communicate in English, but this guy's a white cowboy. This guy is a full-blown white fucking cowboy to the fullest. Looks like Ken Cooper, especially the guy down at the other end, but he's full-blown white cowboy. It's the guy, I think he shot himself in the head. I think he killed himself. But my mother's risking her life at a very, very dangerous level by doing that crazy shit, because she's not calling the police, she tries to deal with it herself. So now this guy downstairs, because I said this guy killed himself, he's trying to hit the cross again, so then justify it out of his own means. And they just shot me with the vibration of an electronic device. And they're shooting it right at the crucifix toward me. So I wanted to make some, this is how Ken Cooper's fighter is doing it. Frank Jr. is being punched, and he's doing this right now. This is what this piece of shit is. So I think he's doing it again. And so he's just letting me know that Jesus Christ is the one that fixes goddamn shit. He's trying to say is Ken Cooper, yeah, for the rapes. That's what he's trying, because he's listening to me right now. That's exactly what he's doing. My mother doesn't want to hear, and it's not that she would get mad, it's a guilt trip. Because Ken Cooper showed up in his police uniform threatening my mother and showing authority, and he knew about Frankie the minute it happened. I was there. He knew. I saw what he did. I saw what Sarah Cooper did. I saw what happened. I was there. My mother would feel an enormous amount of guilt. Why didn't you do nothing? You know, this is what a mother's trying to do to protect her 7-year-old kid from getting a Ken Cooper punch, showing you who's gonna fucking beat the shit out of your kid, because this is a real detective law enforcer, isn't it? Now that piece of shit is dead. So I think it's important for me to say this, because this indication is what I talk about. If I'm not allowed to describe even more than an hour on a video about what's going on, and this guy is hitting me with electronic devices and taking the actions to do this, what actions do you think someone else is willing to do when there isn't electronic devices to mentally dement and justify and help Miguel out and Diana, and help Ken Cooper and Sarah Cooper and Kenneth at the radio station? Remember this is for Michael Jackson and hip hop? If he's willing to do that, and keep me quiet, what else do you think he wants to do for Ken and Sarah? We all just come together, huh? If he's 75 years old, he's some 70 years old, on his way to the cemetery. I have to make another video. This battery's running out.